If you've tried everything from doctors to diets to detoxes and still feel exhausted, inflamed, or just off, this episode is for you. Because what if the real reason you're not healing isn't your willpower? It's that no one's actually gotten to the root of what's going on. Welcome to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast brought to you by Thinlicious. I'm your host, Ruth Sukup, and here we'll talk about everything from the science of weight loss to practical tips for making your health a priority in the midst of a busy life. It's a little bit nerdy, a little bit funny, and a little bit revolutionary. So buckle up, friend, because it's about to get real. Hey there, and welcome back to the Feel Better, Live Free podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ruth Sukup, and I am the founder of Thinlicious and the creator of the Thin Adapted System, as well as the New York Times bestselling author of 7 books. Today, we're chatting with Carrie Drinkwine, a regenerative health expert, root cause specialist, and the founder of the Institute of Regenerative Health. After healing herself from multiple autoimmune conditions, chronic illness, and even infertility, Carrie made it her mission to help other women do the same, physically, emotionally, and energetically. And let me tell you, this conversation is deep. We talk about why so many women get stuck in survival mode, what conventional and even functional medicine often misses, and how real healing can actually start when you go beyond just managing symptoms. If your labs say you're fine, but you still feel like garbage. If you've spent years pushing through the pain, the fog, the anxiety, this episode is going to challenge what you think you know about your body. But more than that, it's going to give you hope. So let's dive in. Carrie, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This will be fun.
Yeah, of course. So let's just start with the basics. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you got to be doing what you are now.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. So
It is.
always is. I feel like anybody that comes into the health space or really into their true calling is because of, being able to turn poison into medicine. And that's really what brought me to the place that I am today. So I'm Carrie Drinkwine. I'm the owner of Wise Wellness Holistic Clinic, where I'm sitting right now, as well as the Institute of Regenerative Health. And the Regenerative Soul Institute. So I have many things that I do, all that encompass essentially coming home to self, like full health sovereignty, full freedom in your mind, your body, your spirit, which isn't, I feel like, something that's accomplished by such a few people in the world. And that's really my mission, to help women specifically find themselves fully and feel good and feel at home in their bodies and stop feeling like their body is their enemy. And that's really where my journey started, was actually as a child. So when I was born, my parents thought I was just like a colicky, crappy baby, but it turned out I had a terrible reflex valve problem, where the reflex valve was actually sending urine to my kidneys and not the other way around. So there was a lot of scarring happening, internal infections. So the beginning of my life started on loads of antibiotic use. So I was prescribed 6 months straight of pretty high pharmaceuticals, and I developed a ton of immunity to them. And eventually at age 1, I became immune to all of the medications under the sun, essentially all of the antibiotics, and they had to operate. So I don't know all the details because I was 1, but I know that my first surgery didn't go right. And then the second surgery, I actually sprung a leak in my abdomen filled with urine. And they had to reopen me up. So I had 3 surgeries at the age of 1 following 6 months of antibiotics and chronic infections. So that kind of set the stage for my health. And, if you know the statistics, even just being born C-section, you're 50% more likely to develop autoimmune disease just from the lack of exposure to, the biodiversity. So I had all this stuff going on. And then I just remember being a really sick kid. So I always had chronic asthma. I mean, asthma was pretty much took over my childhood. I was on a nebulizer, an inhaler, multiple ambulance visits. I always had this like gasping for air thing going on, and I didn't understand why I had this, which now I know is chronic adrenal fatigue, mold exposure, immune system downfall, all of that. And then that turned into being a teenager, where I realized I had such a microbial imbalance, but I didn't know that that's what it was. I just had this like round, distended belly. Nobody else did. I was a dancer and a gymnast. So that turned into like disordered eating and self-hatred and, not understanding why I was so different. So I remember my high school years saying, I'm going to figure this health thing out. Like, this isn't normal. I'm going to go into health and I'm going to help people feel good in their bodies. And so that was the beginning of my journey. It was actually at 18, I decided to go to school for dietetics. I thought I would be really helping people in nutrition, dietetics, all of that. And in my 20s, I quickly realized once I really started entering the field that I wasn't helping anybody at all, that we were giving people like bacon and milk and eggs after heart failure, and I was like, oh, this doesn't seem right. And I was really told not to question the narrative, that this is what the ADA does, and this is how it is. And if you don't like it, this isn't for you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up trying to like spin that information and turn it into, okay, how can I use these years of college? And I went to go master in holistic health and try to find my way, which I learned a lot, but still didn't learn as much as I needed to know to actually help people reverse dis-ease, as I call it. So fast forward, I'm working as a health coach and I'm not feeling good. And I'm not feeling good for years. Like, just chronic fatigue. Then the weight gain started. Then the feet feeling like glass. Then I started getting like food allergies to everything: corn, soy, wheat, dairy, grain, you name it. I had it. Hives and rashes all over my body, chronic constipation, periods like as heavy as a miscarriage every single month. And just insane headaches, body pain, like full body pain. I mean, if somebody hugged me, I would cry. And eating to nap multiple times a day, like chronic fatigue. And I just said, okay, what is going on with me? Like, I'm considered healthy. I'm following everything I've learned. I'm exercising every day. I was a hot yoga teacher at the time. Like, this wasn't like I was sitting on the couch eating cookies.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the story for so many women that think we're doing it right. What's wrong with me? And I actually developed this deep level of self-hatred. And I just thought, like, what is wrong with my body? Is this very like, why do these girls get to eat this and I don't? And I felt like my body was attacking me. And that's also the narrative in Western medicine. And so, many years of me going into the doctor over and over, them telling me I was fine and my labs were normal and that I just needed some psych meds or some anti-anxiety meds, and writing me off as like, you're crazy, your bloods are normal. And I was like, I'm not.
So gaslighting.
So gaslighting, because I checked like, 25 boxes on the list, but yet I'm walking out the door with a clean bill essentially because my labs looked normal. Well, now I know why that is, but it was several years of that happening until one day I was passing out, blacking out. My husband would find me on the floor and I was like, something is wrong with me. You need to run every lab test under the sun. And so I went to a functional medicine doctor who ran a million labs, and she was like, oh, well, you have early onset lupus and Hashimoto and fibromyalgia. And I had also unexplained infertility after getting a hysterosphenogram and all these different tests. And I was like, wait, what? And so I went from, you're crazy, have some Xanax or Prozac, right? To you have multiple morbidity.
Yeah.
And I just remember I was 30 years old at that time. And so I kind of had this like obvious shock, as the delivery. And I really thought I was seeing like this holistic women's functional medicine, pro women's hormone health.
That was the first doctor?
This was like the doctor that diagnosed me.
Oh.
Like I'd gone to a specialist to be like, somebody help me for real. And she diagnosed me with all these things. And I remember saying, like, thinking I was going to get like really true, deep answers from her. And I was like, well, how does this happen? Like, what happened? What changed? Because I had 2 children at that time. I was not infertile. How did I become infertile? How did I develop these diseases? Right. And she said, well, we don't know, but you just do. And if you take these medications for the rest of your life,
This was a functional doctor?
functional doctor.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
And thousands of dollars out of pocket. She's like, if you take these medications the rest of your life, you'll live a relatively normal but shorter life. Like, happy Tuesday. And I'm like, yeah, so that's my face exactly. Because I was like in between shock. I want to cry. I want to scream. I want to shake you. And I'm also in total disbelief.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at her and saying, I'm going to heal this naturally. And she said, she kind of chuckled at me and was like, well, good luck. You'll spend a lot of money and then you'll be right back here. And I was like, okay. And I just took the thing and
I want to punch her in the face.
I've gotten my reprieve totally because I reversed everything and went back to her and showed her that. So that was really cool. But I remember sitting in the car and having this moment of like, if this can happen to me, I can unwind it. I don't know how, because I wasn't born with these conditions. And we're taught that our health is genetic, right?
Yeah.
And so none of these things were in my genetic history. None of them. And or my whole family. And now we know genetics is a load of crap. It's 5% of your health, not 95%. And so I sat in the car and I had a really good cry. And then that was the beginning of my mission. I said, I don't know how, I don't know who, but I'm healing this. And I just prayed for the right people to be put in my path. And off I went. And I started working with
chills from this story.
Thanks. Yeah. So after like so just a little preface is I was actually diagnosed with all those diseases after a really intense divorce. So I had been in a very abusive marriage from 18 to 28, where I was a young mom of two. And in between there, I had lost a set of twins. And so pretty intense stuff, right? But I was single parenting an infant and a 5-year-old. And so it was like, I didn't have time to grieve that divorce. I didn't have time for any of that. And it was very shortly after the divorce was finalized that all the symptoms came flooding in, which now I've been able to put together how much our emotions impact our biology. And so at the time of me actually finding this out, I wasn't remarried yet, but I was in a long-term relationship with somebody new at that time. And we were like, we want to have kids in the future. And so I had to go home and tell my fiance, like, hey, by the way, I'm infertile and I might die. Like, like, oh, okay. No pressure. Right. So it was obviously very devastating. And, I just remember saying that this is not going to be my truth. This is not going to be my reality. So I started working with everything under the sun. Like first I had to take the thyroid meds for a while because my thyroid was so low. I couldn't pick up my kids from school. Like I could not open my eyes. I was driving the car and closing my eyes at stoplights, like crazy fatigue. And that like got me through a space, right, of like being able to operate. But I only got a tiny bit better. And then I started working with, so that was endocrinology and rheumatology. Then I worked with, more functional medicine doctors that led me down a supplement path. And then I went to a naturopath that I spent all of the money with. And I realized I was packaging thousands of dollars of pills a day at or a month, excuse me. And my husband and I would line up all these baggies, like little tiny baggies like this size, and fill them with my pills because I had to take them 6 times a day. And after like 6 months of this, I just burst into tears and I was like, this is not it. Like, how is this any different than Western medicine? Like, yeah, it's a holistic supplement, but it's still treating a problem, not curing a problem. So that's when I just was like, I'm done with this. Like, this is not healing me. Why do I have to take hydrochloric acid every time I eat? Why isn't my gut making hydrochloric acid? What's happening with the gastric glands? What's going on with the mucous membrane? And so I started to dig for truth. And that's actually when I found the world of regenerative detoxification. And it was a time where I was in between desperate and skeptical. And when I found this work, it just resonated so deeply. And I was like, I'll do whatever you tell me. Just like, tell me what to do. And so I did. And I did things that people absolutely write off that are absolutely insane. Like, you're crazy. Where do you get your protein? How can you do that? Like, you name it, I did it. And I healed every single thing in my body in 5.5 months. So
wow.
All diagnoses gone. And yeah, and since that date, by the way, I've had two fully healthy, vibrant children, nursed both of them for 2 to 2.5 years, and had to have my husband snip because I'm overly fertile now. I was like, that's enough of that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah, so that was my journey. And then
that is a journey. And there's so much to unpack from that. But let's start with what did you call it?
regenerative health. So really what I had found was like regenerative detox, which was this way to detox the body, and it approached the physical. But in my journey, it was not a linear journey, and it was not just a physical journey. I realized I was emotionally detoxing. I was, like I regrieved my divorce one day. Like I remember just sobbing on the bathroom floor and being like, I was having a fine day. What's happening here? And I started realizing like every organ that I was working on, like I was working deeply on the kidneys, I would have the emotion of fear and like deep sadness come up. And I was like, what is going on? And I started really connecting the dots and studying like Louise Hay, Heal Your Body, and the body keeps the score, and really understanding that like my body was showing me a map to where I had unprocessed trauma stored.
Wow.
And yeah, so I kind of started pulling all these pieces together. And then after I healed myself, I went and studied everything I could, got certified in everything untraditional, unlearned everything I went to college for. And then I started my clinical practice like a decade ago, a little over a decade ago.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So explain more about regenerative health and what that is, and then how you approach when you're working with clients.
Yeah, so regenerative health is, this word, regenerative medicine is thrown around, but really not understood. So they're using a modality that's like maybe a biohack to regenerate something or hack into the biology. First of all, I hate the word biohack. Why would we ever want to hack into our biology? We want to harmonize our biology.
It's such a bro word.
Oh, it is. I mean, we know who coined it. So yeah, it's just like you think of like getting your computer hacked or getting your bank account hacked. Like, oh, I'm good on the hacking. So I really approach like the health much softer. But what regenerative health is like truly getting to the root of the problem and then regenerating it at the cellular level. And that includes approaching the physical, the emotional, and even the energetic components that are contributing to the illness. And so when you do that, like for example, I gave you an example of I was taking hydrochloric acid every single day for my gut. Well, a Western medicine would be like, take Pepto-Bismol to get rid of your acid reflux and your gut problems. Well, you're burning your gut lining with loads of chemicals then. The middle road is where most people are, which is the biohacking functional medicine and naturopathy world, which is take a natural supplement to help you. The regenerative health road is let's figure out what's wrong with the gastric glands and the mucous membrane. Let's rebuild the lining. Let's detox the lining from mucoid plaque, parasites, chemicals, pesticides, and restore its function at the cellular level.
Gotcha.
So, and some people just detox and they strip and strip and strip. I don't believe in that. I believe in we are regenerative health. So we're regenerating the body as we're detoxing the body because you need enough voltage in your body to be able to detox. And so many people are focused on chemicals, hormones, labs, and protein, and they have zero clue of the electrical body. Like we are actually electric. And so I started putting all these pieces together and built my practice. And then in the pandemic, I opened a school to go global.
That's amazing. So talk a little bit more about like what are some of the most common things that you see with the people that you work with and the clients that you work with for in terms of like what's happening with like does it run the gamut of just so many different things, or are there some things that just like come up over and over and over again where you go, yeah, this is something where more people need to know about? If I've learned anything from my own health journey, it's that real transformation isn't about finding one magic diet plan. It's about finding the best food to nourish our bodies every day. And that's why I am so excited about Seven Sons Farms. Just like me, their family story started with a mom's health struggle, and it completely transformed the way they raise food. Today, they're delivering pasture-raised meats and eggs straight from their farm to families across the country, which makes it easier and more convenient than ever to eat the healthiest, highest quality meat in the country. And here's the best part. If you want to try it for yourself, Seven Sons is giving my community an exclusive $50 off your first box. Just use the code TL50 at checkout. You'll find the link in the show notes.
We have a ton of reoccurring things. Lots of people come in for like brain fog, insomnia, constipation, and weight gain. Like really, really, really common. And sadly, it's really common for women and women approaching menopause and all these things that we just blame on hormones. But like women weren't actually designed to just suffer through health. Right? We weren't supposed to suffer through our periods. We weren't supposed to suffer through menopause. God wasn't like, I'm going to punish you all, right? Or source energy. What do you want to say? It's really a very large sign of imbalance inside of the human body. So once we find balance and restore balance, all of those are the easiest things that we go through here is like insomnia, weight gain, constipation, brain fog, migraines, feeling scattered, ADHD, all easy peasy. Those are the really, really common things. But we deal with everything under the sun. We get neurological disorders, Parkinson's, stage 4 cancer, IBS, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, autoimmune, you name it. We do it here because the thing is once you put the terrain into the right environment, you clean up the terrain, you clean up the environment that surrounds the cells and the hormones all balance themselves. This autoimmune concept, which is probably our most common thing we work with here, is the belief that the body is attacking itself. But the body is never attacking itself. It's attacking an intruder, which means there's parasites or chemicals or pesticides intracellular, and the body is saying, that doesn't belong here. That doesn't belong here. And it's kicking it out, but it's in your cell. So yeah, so that was my story is like, I had all this autoimmunity, but really I just had a parasite problem that I had to get rid of. And
how did you find that out? Like, and how do you go about working with people to find these like things how do you know that you have parasites?
It's pretty simple. I always say, one, if you have a pulse, you have a parasite. So parasites are part of nature. So this is one thing that like in the Western world, we say, oh, parasites is just a third world country problem. Not even a little bit true. If you have animals, you have parasites, 100%, hands down. Animals are the largest source of parasites. Toxoplasma gondii is one of the most common cat parasites. It affects 1 in 3 cat owners. It can turn into psychosis, autoimmunity, depression, anxiety, all kinds of things. They're licking your face. They're sleeping on your bed. They're in their paws. It's part of nature. So animal people always have them. They're always my most parasites. It's okay. I know. I would say like, as long as you parasite cleanse a couple times a year and you parasite cleanse your animal at the same time, you'll be okay. Think about what a parasite is. It needs a host to survive, and it's there to break down that which no longer supports life. So when it comes into the human body, if we don't have the environment to host it, it doesn't stay. But if you're eating like processed foods, refined sugars, heavy animal-based foods that just kind of sit in the gut and your digestive fire is low, those parasites will come in to ferment and to break down what your body can't. If you have leaky gut, you'll for sure have parasites. So if you're not eating organic and you're exposed to glyphosate all the time, that tears holes in the gut lining. Then we have leaky gut, which leads to systemic inflammation, which leads to bacteria needing to break down the food because the digestive tract didn't break down the food. The other biggest sources of parasites is sushi is the number 1 source in the whole world. Sushi. Yeah. So raw fish. So again, it breaks down that which no longer supports life. So any dead flesh, parasites are going to come to break down. And so at a microscopic level, you can't see the larvae and the eggs, but they're in there. And so sushi is like one of the largest sources of parasites, farmed and freshwater fish. I actually just did a reel on this. It's about to post this week. But yeah, so sushi, undercooked or raw meats for sure. And any sort of animal product and lots of dairy things have a lot of parasites and fungus because it is fungus. So unfortunately, that's why I say everyone should parasite cleanse at least a couple times a year. Just do it.
How do you do a parasite cleanse?
So it's a little in depth, but I'll try to go quick. But I would say, one, you have to take antiparasitic herbs. And there's specific ones that you can work with for really cheap wherever you are in the world, or you can go with the tried and true system. Like we work with cell core systems and different things. But you can honestly get like black walnut hull and different really cool herbs that are very potent against parasites. But the biggest mistake people make is they parasite cleanse without changing their diet. And that's a big problem. So you're actually making parasites angry and then you're feeding them all at the same time. And so as they start to die off, they actually lay eggs, and they lay eggs as part of their survival mechanism. So then as you're feeding them, you actually bloom your problem instead of reduce your problem.
Oh, wow.
So this is what a lot of functional medicine doctors do. They put people on like a high paleo, high meat, high dairy diet, and then they parasite cleanse them, and they're giving them all the food that their parasites need. So I have a lot of people that come to me from functional medicine 6 months, and they're like, I'm still seeing parasites. I'm seeing more than day one. I'm like, I know, because you're making them mad and you're feeding them. Yeah. So it's really unfortunate. So you have to change your diet.
Okay.
And then there's a specific way. I always say you need to clean up heavy metals, because where heavy metals go, parasites flow. Heavy metals, parasites actually eat up heavy metals. So it's honestly a beneficial relationship in the body, as long as the parasite doesn't linger and lay eggs, right? Like come in, come out. So Dr. Klinghardt is somebody I studied with, and he would actually take parasites from his patients, and that they would excrete, and he would whir them up in a blender and test them, and they would have on average 500 times the level of heavy metals in the parasite than in the human.
Oh, wow.
So it was actually helping the human sequester a lot of the heavy metals. But if you didn't have heavy metal toxicity, you wouldn't have parasite toxicity per se. So we have to address the reason the parasites are there to begin with. So whether that's leaky gut, tons of plaque in the gut, eating bad foods, or heavy metals, if we don't take the environment away, we're just going to minimize the parasites, but they're going to come back because your environment is asking for them to be there. So I heavy metal cleanse every single person. I use a really advanced clinopteniolite, zeolite. I don't have to get into all that, but it just helps clean up the metals. It just sucks it up into a cage and you pee it out. Super simple. And then change the diet. And then the biggest thing is consistency with the parasite cleanse. So minimum requirement or recommendation would be 15 days straight of parasite cleansing, followed by no more than 5 to 7 days off, then 15 days on, 5 to 7 days off, then 15 days on. Do 3 cycles to really sweep parasites when you're doing it for the first time. You've done a really thorough sweep, then you can just do like a refresh once or twice a year of just like 2 weeks on parasite cleanse, you know? So that's kind of the proper way. Some people will do a one-time 10-day parasite cleanse, make all their parasites really angry, let them lay eggs, and then they don't follow through. That's why you want that no more than 5 to 7 days, because at about 10 to 15 days, the parasites' eggs will hatch. So you want to be in there sweeping the eggs out so they don't hatch. So yeah, so that's kind of like, I have like a parasite like little thing that you can get for free on my website. I'll kind of guide you to it, but
yeah, and we'll link to it in the show notes too. But this is so fascinating. So do you find that like parasite cleanse and heavy metal cleanse, those are pretty much like every single person you work with, you have them go through that? And what are the results that people see just from that?
Just from that alone, I mean, it's insane. So yes, the answer is yes, because everybody has heavy metals and parasites from our water. Our pesticides in the air have heavy metals. And a lot of people don't know that like fluorescent lighting above your head actually gives you mercury. And you can get aluminum from the environment. So it's like everybody has it. I mean, I just did an oligo scan and my heavy metals were super low, but my aluminum was high. And I was like, aluminum, and it wasn't high. It was in the middle range. So anything not in the green range for me is high because of the way I live. And that's when I really dug into that you get it from fluorescent lighting.
Wow.
So, you know, natural light, like I never turn on my lights until I absolutely have to. And then I have floor lights instead of headlights. I actually push the floor lights on the way up, even though I have beautiful chandeliers and stuff, but I don't really turn them on very often. But yes, so that's what I think everybody should do is everybody should parasite cleanse and everybody should heavy metal cleanse at least once a year, at least. And the results that they get is everything. The brain fog goes away because that's usually caused by parasites overtaking. They get sick less because the immune system is not overwhelmed. If they get a cold, they get rid of it quickly instead of in 10 days or 2 weeks. There's a whole thing about Th1 and Th2, T helper 1, T helper 2. One goes after viruses, one goes after parasites. So if you have a lot of parasites, the body won't be able to go after the viruses. And that's when people get long hauler, high levels of viral load where they're sick for weeks and weeks. It's because the body's overwhelmed with parasites. So people see belly bloat go away. They see constipation go away. Their brain fog goes away. Their sleep gets better. Their skin gets better. And what we can document here is actually their cellular age reverses. So our average 4-month regeneration program that we've run people through, on average, they reduce their biological age by 2 to 11 years. And and just like a quick boom, 4-month cleanse. So imagine if you did that every year, just like a quick little flush, after you've done some of the deeper work, you could just keep turning back the clock.
Wow, that's incredible. So you mentioned that you've worked with patients who have Parkinson's. What have you found with, I have a friend with Parkinson's, so I'm especially curious about that topic, but what have you found, you go through the same regimen? Is there additional stuff that you do, or how have you worked with them?
Yeah. So Parkinson's disease is quite unique. So first of all, the nice thing is that almost every dis-ease that we have is related to the same root problem, where the internal terrain is overwhelmed. But when it comes into Parkinson's, you're dealing with a neurological disorder as well as a parasitic overwhelm inside the body, and sometimes overwhelmed with viruses. So what you have to look at is, we have 2 kidneys and 2 adrenals. The kidneys filter all of our lymphatic waste out of the body. So your urine should actually be cloudy with lots of flakes, against popular belief. People believe your urine should be crystal clear. It should be translucent, meaning you're hydrated, but it should have some cloudiness to it. That's sediment. That sediment is lymphatic waste leaving the body. So when those kidneys get backed up, which is real easy to do if we're slamming protein powders, like excess protein, really highly processed foods overwhelms the kidneys. They have to filter that waste out. So when the kidneys stop filtering, then 80% of our body's fluid, which is lymphatic fluid, gets stopped. And so the lymph is trying to take out the trash, but the gates are full. The trash cans are full. So where does the trash go? It recirculates. So with everyone, we have to get the kidneys filtering. We have to get the liver out of overwhelm, cleaning up heavy metals and toxins. And then we have to get the immune system out of overwhelm by cleaning up parasites. So when we do those 3 things with everyone, every single condition gets better. So no matter what it is. But when it goes into, specifically Parkinson's disease, you're dealing with a neurological disorder. So if you want to dive into Parkinson's and how it works, Parkinson's disease is deeply affecting the gut, first of all. So there's no way that you have Parkinson's without having a gut disorder, like maybe leaky gut or overgrowth of parasites in the gut, because the gut is controlling the HPA and the HPT, all of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. This is the communication pathway to the whole endocrine system. So when the gut is down, all the communication to the rest of the endocrine glands goes down. And the adrenals are responsible for the nervous system health. So when we see this neurological condition show up, this means that the brain and the gut are compromised. This is the gut-brain axis. So when the gut has parasites or damage, viruses or heavy metals, all of these toxins migrate right up through the vagus nerve into the lymph and into the glymphatic system, which is into the brain. So this blood-brain barrier has been crossed. So this is why so many people with Parkinson's disease, we have to actually really hone in on the gut. This is the first place we hone in, is gut and parasite cleansing. And until we actually heal and seal that gut, we won't be able to stop the leak, essentially. And then, so our approach is not really about trying to just modulate or get more dopamine in the body. It's really about clearing the terrain, getting the electrical current back up. And that's the other thing that people have to realize with Parkinson's, is the voltage in the body is low. So basically our nervous system is our electrical system. So when we're having Parkinson's disease or any sort of neurological disease, the electrical system has hit a low voltage. And that's why, I always say, it starts with like, oh, I can't find that word, right? Like almost like we're losing our memory, like Alzheimer's and dementia. That's because the signals don't have enough voltage to get where they need to go quick enough. And so it's really about charging the cells. So I would say clean the cell, charge the cell, repair the communication.
That's insane. And it's so like everything that you say when you talk about it, and especially like the gut brain connection and all, like it always strikes me, number one, how 100% connected everything is. That modern medicine is so focused on like, let's separate everything. And it's not, you can't, you're one body and it all is working together in one system. But also it's just knowing kind of the other side of what my friend goes through, like with treatment, and he's kind of following the traditional path, but he's not hearing any of that. So
I know. And that's the hard part. It's really, really hard when you're on this side. And like when you know what you want to help everybody, but sometimes that help isn't wanted. Right. So I always say there's three paths when it comes to health, and they're all right. They're all your choice. One path is pharmaceutical approach, which is treatment versus cure with lots of side effects. And if that's your choice, that's okay. That's your choice. I believe in health sovereignty, which means I have free will to do what I want with my health, right?
Yeah.
Then the middle path is like you can spend tons of money on natural supplements that are going to start help mitigating and help you manage without all the toxic residue and the downsides of those things, but you aren't really healing the root, but you're managing your symptoms with more holistic approach. And then there's regenerative health, which means get to the root, heal it, reverse it, and do the work. But this one requires you to change. So I like to present people the path. Like, do you want to change or do you want to? And none of them's wrong. It's like that's the hard part that I had to learn. Like for me, I could not understand why anyone would not want to clean their body out and do the work to change their life. I'm like, what? And then I had to be like, it's not my journey, it's their journey.
I know. And it's so true. And you're right. When you don't know what you don't know, but also learning it and then not wanting to do the change. But there's like, hopefully people hear this and somebody will hear this and be like, okay, I'm ready, right? Everyone has to be ready in their own time. And man, it's very compelling. So Carrie, we're out of time, but this was so incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom, and your story is amazing. And just appreciate it so much. I'd love to know, where can we find you online? How can somebody work with you? Tell us all the things.
Sure. So you can find me, the easiest place to find me would be just carriedrinkwine.com, because I have multiple companies. So from there, you'll find Wise Wellness Clinic, which we serve in person and online globally. So if you're just looking to be a client, we have like one-on-one appointments, and we also have online programs that are very affordable for a consumer. Like I have a 90 days to transform your terrain program for under a couple $100. Like it will change your whole life. We have longevity programs all online. That's all through Wise Wellness. You can find that. And then the Institute of Regenerative Health is my practitioner certification program for those of you that are either in health already or looking to get into the health career field. We are a globally accredited and licensed career school through the International Practitioners of Holistic Medicine. And people like get this deep level of knowledge and this huge blueprint to create a multi-6 or 7-figure platform with, there's a possibility to create that. So many of our practitioners are with the way that we've laid it out. And then the last thing I do is the Regenerative Soul Institute. So we do global retreats, helping women come home, men and women, to really to their soul. And I always say it starts with the body, though. We have to let the body heal the mind. And if our body's out of balance, our mind's out of balance. And then once we do that, then we can start to open up to some of the more beautiful things. So I do global retreats. We have curriculum in all of them. So there's something for everyone. So just go to carriedrinkwine.com, dig around, and feel free to email me and we'll guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And we will put the links in the show notes to all of those things and to your main website. And I just am so appreciative. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, guys, that about does it for this episode. Remember that you'll find the link to Carrie's website, as well as all the resources we talked about, including how to connect with her or learn more about regenerative healing, in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. And if you know someone who's been struggling with chronic illness, autoimmune flares, or just feeling stuck in their health journey, please send this episode their way. It could be exactly the encouragement they need right now. Then be sure to subscribe to the podcast to be notified of future episodes. And I'll see you back here for another new episode very soon.